Test, test, test. Is there audio coming through? Testing, testing. Anybody hear anything? Hello, hello, hello. Anybody there? Okie dokie. Sounds like I got some audio. See if I can pop out this chat. Here we go. Alright. You got some music, and you got some words from my mouth. Everything's mixed okay. You can see everything. Voice up. Can do. Hello, hello, hello. Alright, so welcome to first ever Andre J AMA. Let me shut my door. Alright, so I'll be here for at most a half hour. And at least as long as there's people asking me questions, so alright, who's got a question? I'm using Video Waves. This is the software that the first large piece of video software that I designed. It is a video mixer, video processor, and what do you call it? Feedback, 4-tap video feedback thing. There's delay and reverb. I didn't do it on purpose. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to how audio, so audio, basically almost every audio effects that you like think of off the top of your head, whether it's reverb, delay, chorus, flange, phase, those are all delay-based effects. And they're all just quite simply how much delay is there feedback? Not every one of those effects has feedback involved, but it's sort of about how does the delay get modulated in. And yeah, so you can think of this as being similar to like video, the audio delay, but for video. So multi-dimensional video delay. But yeah, keep the questions coming. Yeah, it's like a fully fledged video mixer. There's like, honestly, like probably about 24 hours worth of video on YouTube if you're more interested in video waves that I've recorded already. And it's definitely probably way easier to do that with something you can press pause on than with me just rambling. But yeah, fully fledged video mixer and video delay unit. So I'm only going to respond to questions, and I'm going to pop off if people don't actually ask questions, because I got some curry on the stove I'm working on. But yeah, keep the questions coming. How should I go about hooking video waves to an analog video mixer? Short answer is don't do that. Video waves is best used on your computer with other computer things. And if you want to use video, something like this, with analog video mixers, then you should use a wave pool instead. The longer answer is do a bit of homework on capture devices and expend a lot of time and energy trying to like either make really shitty USB capture things work well and converting like HDMI or VGA to like composite. Like it definitely can be done, but I don't really recommend it. I recommend using Wavepool for working with analog systems because it was designed with the sort of analog signal flow in mind. So if you only have a camera and you only have a TV, you can definitely have fun. It's not too limited, but it is limited. Something to look into is if you just have that kind of a setup, I would say start working with more physical things. Like instead of just doing camera and TV based feedback, try to get some glass, like weird glass objects to put in between, or like prisms, or like sheets of like translucent. You can get like translucent paper that you can print things out on. But yeah, try to use like physical things to play with the camera and the feedback if you don't have anything else to play with. Otherwise, another real simple and cheap thing you can do to like really bump up like a camera and feedback chain is to build a Archer video enhancer circuit. I just put together a BOM for those because we're having a workshop at Phase Space in like a month and a half, and you can put them together for like I think $40 max, like $20-40 depending on how sort of like pimped out you want to make them. Yeah, really like as soon as you can start involving like filters and stuff in there, then yeah, that's a couple of advices for working with just camera and TV feedback. All right. Any tips on how to do a great live set with AutoWave? Honestly, knowing the music that you're working with in advance, keeping it minimal, like having a lot of sort of control over things and just having like the audio, like maybe one frequency mapped to one thing at one time, like having low frequency mapped to like delay time, mid frequency mapped to like Z displace, and high frequency mapped to brightness or something, and then kind of playing the rest as you go, I think is a pretty great way to do it. But yeah, just keeping it simple, having a good idea of what you're working with, and also having maybe one little other way to do some sort of like gain staging and mixing while you're at it. If you can be near the mixing board, or have like a little like cheap ass like 2-channel like Yamaha mixer or something around. Yeah, so that's advice on that. Eldritch knowledge on auto waves. People keep asking me for secrets on things, especially things I design. The reason I seem like there's not really... Basically the thing is that you just have to put the time into it. There's not a lot of, there's sort of like some level of intuition you can get, but like the really weird and far out stuff is what you get from just like, you play it for hours and hours and take notes on what you're doing. That's sort of just like my game plan for how I learn anything and how like I do creative things in general. Is I spend a lot of time on it. Like I put in the hours, I take notes, and I try to make sure that I've got like some sort of a vague knowledge of how I can replicate things. Otherwise, also just kind of keep tuning into the video synthesis tutorials that I'm doing, or the exploring video synthesis things that I'm doing with Star. We're recording 2 more tomorrow, and we're going to talk about additive and subtractive mixing in the wave pool / auto wave. And that's kind of like a really like a nice little like secret weapon in there. I feel like not everyone gets in there so deep, but yeah, so that's some advice there. Alright. What is the best camera to make your modules work best? If you're talking about just USB cameras, Logitechs are like the most useful ones in general, in terms of they have pretty decent color space and steady frame rates. If you want to work with external cameras, then I would say it really depends on what kind of stuff you're doing. But yeah. Doing video feedback and then doing auto waves or wave pool or video waves on that is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend doing that. I do recommend keeping them separate, so doing the camera feedback over here, and then having that be one chain, and then running the output from that into the other feedback thing. I've been doing a lot of that. That's kind of like one of the main things that's going on with the Ultra Terrestrial album that I'm like just about to finish up here, is doing a lot of stuff like that. One of the main signal flows I had was doing camera feedback, and then taking the output from that and running it through like pretty much a little bit of all of my devices one way or the other. So you'll see like there's some temporal vortex, some wave pool, and some what was it called? Spectral mesh. Alright. Out from the PA would be sick? Yeah. Basically going direct out, the more control you have over the input, the more performative stuff you have. When I use auto wave on my own, I don't use it on pre-recorded music as much. I make music that goes along with it. So what I actually do is like, I'll design music that plays the auto wave. So I can, instead of like directly playing it with the knobs, I can just play notes, and I can sequence things on my drum machines and bass machines and all that stuff. So I like sort of design the music. I start from the video and then I design music. That's another sort of like secret tip of like working with AV stuff, is start from the video and then make the music go around the video first. Where are the tutorials at? They're on this YouTube page. Check my playlists, check the history. Go deep. I'm sorry, there's like so much on my YouTube to dig through. It's a real mess. Maybe I'll organize it someday, but I probably won't. But yeah, that's where some tutorials are at. Well, I mean, that's where all the video tutorials that I've done are at. Okay, what are my thoughts on the nature of creativity in the context of avant-garde art? That's too vague. I can't answer a question like that. I don't know what avant-garde means, because that means way too many things to way too many different people. And creativity, I think, is a bit of a tangled concept too, because a lot of people have, I think my concept of creativity does not exactly jive up with a lot of other people's concepts of creativity. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on that for now. Before my wave pool modules existed, oh yeah, I was making video art for years and years and years and years before I ever designed like hardware modules. Sorry, I have really nasty allergies right now. It's been like 100 degrees plus here, and like the air quality is basically like breathing. It's like living inside of a shop vac or something. I like tried to like seal my room up, and it's helping a little bit. But yeah, I was making, so I first started making video art just by using the programming language processing. I would design these sort of like chaotic systems of like oscillating, like it's like morphing, oscillating living creatures. And then I started digging more into making my own feedback systems, and then I started finding video gear in the trash and video gear at thrift stores, and started exploring like working with like video mixers and feedback and other kinds of stuff like that. And then at a certain point, it sort of like melded and blended with the sort of like some of the like more like academic research stuff I had done in college, and there was kind of like a little quantum leap in my brain, and things started getting more intense. But I've been doing this for about 10 years, and I've only been doing these modules for like a handful of years. So the modules are really kind of like a footnote in terms of like what I've been making. Underground. I don't know shit about the underground right now. I'll be frank with you. I'm like old. I don't really pay attention to like media or like what's going on out there. I'm very sort of self-absorbed and self-involved, and I spend so much time like working on coding, working on my own art projects, designing like this sort of thing. Like I'm sort of like, I'm not really one to ask about what's going on in underground anything right now. I don't even know what underground means anymore in terms of like popular and unpopular things, or like it feels like with the internet, the concept of like above ground and below ground have sort of like disappeared. Not exactly disappeared, but like have become redefined, because we can all have there's so many like subclades and everything else out there. What is an auto wave? I recommend digging more into my YouTube channel and my website for info on what an auto wave is. It's a video synthesizer, audio reactive video feedback synthesizer. It does similar things to what's going on with this video right here, but it does it in a standalone hardware format. Alright, personal favorite hardware from VSCR Pi. Honestly, I think Phosform is one of my favorite. I think it's the one that is like easily the least popular, but it's sort of like, I'm going to be working a bit more on it. It's kind of this idea of like my dream audio synthesizer, because it doesn't have a keyboard. It just does really weird like FM or phase mod and like amp mod like stuff. It's really grungy and nasty sounding, and yeah, I'm gonna try to like, I'm not with this next batch of big updates, but I kind of want to try to figure out how to like add like some capacitive touch, like little like weird little capacitive touch gating thing to Phosform, and then so you could do some more like finger playing with it, and then add this really bizarre delay effects thing I was working on like a long time ago that I've been meaning to try to get out there one way or the other. So yeah, Phosphor is kind of my fave. I also just really like the weird patterns it makes. It's just like working with the oscilloscope stuff is just sort of its own weird little noodly wormhole to get sucked into. I mean, yeah, there's nothing more underground than like literally being completely like not paying attention to anything, I guess. But I'm also like, I live in like the most populated city in the United States too, so I can't really be that underground. If I ever move back to the backwoods of Wisconsin, then I can be more underground. Do I ever do AV stuff live? Very rarely. I find it to be kind of like a headache and not very fun, and I don't really like working with like show promoters that often, and yeah, mostly just like not a priority for me. We do shows here at my Face Space has been doing concerts on and off, and that's mainly where I do shows, because if I'm going to do live stuff, I want to be able to like have control over the entire environment and not be sort of like at the mercy of like, oh, I'm gonna go to Trans Pecos and their projector's gonna break, and like some like noise band is gonna throw a temper tantrum and like smash like a table full of gear or something. Do I know any nice software for creating visuals similar? Well, this is software. This isn't analog at all. Like, this is software right here. I designed a whole suite of open source free desktop software that you can use, called the Video Wave Suite. You can poke around on my YouTube page and on my website to find out more about that. Other software I would recommend at varying levels of like accessibility and like deepness would be vSynth. Kevin Cripper has designed this amazing digital like modular video synthesis environment called vSynth, which you can use for Max MSP. You don't actually have to pay for the demo version of Max MSP, you just don't get to save patches, but I recommend everyone interested in video synthesis on the computer should dig up vSynth and play with that. There's Hydra, which is a live coding language, which you can do some really stunning and amazing things with video synthesis. There's also Lumens. I haven't really checked in on Lumens lately, but people love it. I met the person who designed it once, and they seem like super nice and chill. And if you want to start getting deeper into it, there's Touch Designer is pretty great. If you want to go one more level in, you can check out Processing. And if you really want to like dive deep into it, then you can learn C++ and GLSL. The letter V, Video Synth. bum, bum. All right, we're at 7:20. I'm gonna have to bump out of here in 10 minutes. I'm gonna go stir my curry, and I'll be right back. All right. Questions. Whip them out. I will try to answer them if possible. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, excuse me, goof around with the video stuff. Are there any routes, physical, analog, or software I recommend combining with video waves? Software, all of those things I just listed earlier, you can use NDI to go in and out from, well, you can use NDI to screen capture anything. So I would recommend using like oscillator systems into video waves is kind of the best. That's kind of why I designed Artificial Life, but compared to V-Synth, artificial or Hydra, Artificial Life is sort of, it's its own weird little thing. It's not a fully fledged like video synthesis environment. It was just, I wanted to do one thing, which was like make weird, wiggly, like chaotic like patterns. But you can do so much more with like Hydra, Lumens, or V-Synth. So using those into video waves or spectral mesh or even into Artificial Life 2 is pretty awesome. What is an oscillator system? So video oscillators, like so LZX, a lot of the older LZX gear is based off of video oscillators. And it's sort of like all the old, like, not all, but a lot of the old sort of like Sandine like video gear was like oscillator based. I don't know if the Opaque Abe stuff used oscillators. I think it used oscillators to generate color, but I don't know about sort of like, but it's just literally like, think about an audio oscillator and then think about how you would make that work on like a video thing. It's like you have, instead of like the oscilloscope sort of peaks and valleys things, what you have is these like sine wave gratings or square wave gratings. But once you have like a bunch of oscillators working together, then you have a really dynamic thing. You can check out anything on my YouTube page here about Artificial Life for more information on like oscillator systems, because that's my own personal video oscillator system I designed. But going through like a Hydra tutorial will teach you a lot about oscillators too, and so will V-Synth stuff. Okie dokie. Yeah, and I mean, like, you can get a lot of oscillating patterns with video feedback, too, so... Using light waves to create video as opposed to audio? Yeah, basically. Well, this went pretty well. I thought people wouldn't actually show up because it's Labor Day. I forgot it was a holiday. I mean, oscillators, light waves, however you want to say it, it's kind of the same thing, like... Yeah, I might try to do this, like, once a month or something. I don't know that I could, like, do it any more often than that, but once a month seems kind of reasonable. Let me start to mix myself out here. Slow it down. Is there a way to combine other of your softwares on the Raspberry Pi AutoWaves? Well, so if you have the AutoWave, you can, as long as you have another separate unit, so you can't really... Oh, so you have artificial life. So say you have artificial life in your hand over here, and you have AutoWaves over here. You use the HDMI capture thing included in the capture bundle, and just take the output of artificial life into the input HDMI to USB input for AutoWaves. It's pretty. It's that simple. Boop, doop. I'm gonna get wormy here. Yeah, you can't run more than one thing on a single Pi. Like, every one of these is pretty much maxed out to, like, what one of these units can do in terms of processing. So, but, I mean, the Pis themselves are not really... Oh, yeah, no, not a chance. When I designed them, it was pretty much like, I started from a place of, like, let's figure out, let's try to do as many things as possible. And for most of these things, I had to like scale back everything. So I would try to cram all this stuff in. And then at the end, when I was just like, okay, let's see if we can keep a stable frame rate, maybe above 24 frames per second, then I'd have to toss some stuff out. Thank you. Yeah, that's sort of my goal with this, is to make this kind of video stuff more approachable. Maybe not more approachable, but more accessible in a wider world. But yeah, we got 3 minutes left. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And just sort of like go out here with saying I've started work on the giant system of updates. Some people have sort of been talking about, like, I know I've been talking about making these OSC things happen, but it turns out in order to make the OSC things happen, I had to sort of like make an update to every single one of the modules, and it's all taking a long time, and I'm basically doing the best I can, but pretty much by the end of September, something should be out. There should be, at the end of September, all of the updated images for the VSER Pi will exist that will be compatible with the OSC thing, and there will be the Orb Weaver OSC demo available for folks to like work with. It won't quite, I don't know if it'll be for sale or not. Maybe it will. Hopefully it will. But that'll be sort of like the Orb Weaver is kind of going to be a master module, and long-term plan is to kind of have it work. My goal was to try to figure out how to do... So I like the idea of modular synthesis. I don't actually like to play with modular synthesizers at all because it seems like a giant expensive mess of cables everywhere. But I wanted to kind of figure out what would be the best workaround for having like that sort of like sequenceability and modulatability in my stuff. And what I'm sort of working with is like this network-based modulation system. So Orb Weaver will eventually be sort of a way to set up LFOs, sequence things, like modulate, like if you've got like all 5 of the things out there, you could sort of like modulate them all from one master. It's also a way that you could just control everything with one controller using like to all of the things, and yeah, it's going to be a bit of a game changer, but because it's going to be such a game changer, it's going to be difficult and hard to work on. It has been difficult and hard to work on, but it's coming out there. But yeah, we're at 7:29. I gotta get back to my curry soon. But thanks everyone for showing up, and I'll see you back here in another month or so, I guess. Try to put one on the schedule for like a Monday night, October something. Chana masala. I'm gonna make chana masala and puri tonight. But just sort of started the chana masala slow cooking. But yeah, thanks a bunch for showing up and asking questions. And I'm gonna fade myself out here. And everyone enjoy your laborious day.